So for today's video, meron na naman tayong bagong lesson at ngayon dalawa ang lessons natin. Dalawa ang lessons natin guys at yung isa ay yung principal roots and irrational numbers at yung pangalawa ay ang estimating the square root of a whole number and plotting irrational numbers on a number line. You can learn. So, konti lang naman ito, medyo madali lang. By the way, itong lesson na to, hindi ko kayo pagbabakalang gumamit ng calculator. You can use your calculators. New normal na tayo ngayon, digital na tayo ngayon. Hindi ko na kayo papahirapan pa. You can use your calculators in these lessons. Medyo marami-rami to kasi 4 na sub-lessons yung meron yung dalawa. Kaya, let's proceed. And keep on watching till the end of this video for your bonus answers. Okay, so this is my PowerPoint presentation and these are our lessons. Actually, we are having 2 lessons in here. The first one will be on the principal roots or irrational numbers and estimating the square root of a whole number and plotting irrational numbers. So this will be our modules for this week. After going through these modules, you are expected to define principal root, describe principal roots and tell whether they are rational or irrational, determine between what 2 integers the square root of a number lie, and number 4, estimate the square root of a whole number to the nearest hundredths, and plot irrational numbers or square roots on a number line. Okay? But before that, you have to use or you can use your scientific calculators or your Android phone in these lessons. Hindi ako madamot ngayon since we are now in pandemic emerut ek na to, new normal. You can use your gadgets. Huwag na nating pahirapan yung mga sarili natin, no? Okay, so let's proceed to the first topic, which is on the principal roots. We have to define first what is a principal root or what are principal roots for us to know the following lessons. Okay, so these are the definitions. Principal root is a number which produces a specific quantity when multiplied by itself. It is the positive nth root of a number. Take note, positive lang. Positive nth root. Just focus on the positive. Next is the perfect square. When we say perfect square, it is the number or the square of a rational number. Now, rational number is a number that can be expressed in the form of a over b, where a and b are integers and b is not equal to 0. Also, irrational number is a number whose decimal representation is neither terminating nor repeating. This number cannot be expressed as a quotient of integers. Kung yung rational, it can be expressed as a over b. These irrational numbers cannot be expressed as a over b. Cannot. Okay? So, let's try this. Using your scientific calculator or your Android phone, input the following and get the equivalent value. Okay, so let's try. Square root of 36, if you calculate that, you have 6. By the way, it can be positive or negative 6, but since we are dealing with principal roots, let's just focus on the positive side. So, positive 6. Also, if you have square root of 2, if you try that in your calculator, you got this one. 0.41425. Also, for example again, next example is when you have the square root of 64, and we know that the square root of 64 is 8. And square root of 50, it is equal to 7.071067 blah blah blah. So may karugtong pa yan. Take note of our results. Now let's analyze. When a principal root is a whole number or fraction, then the principal root is described as rational. Or if it is not, then it is irrational. So let's have the square root of 36. So 6 yung sagot. Therefore, that principal root is rational or irrational? Okay, rational. In square root of 2, that's 1.414235. That is irrational number. Next is when you have 8, which is the square root of 64, that is rational number. And then the square root of 50, 7.071067 blah blah blah, and that is an irrational number. So alam na natin kung paano i-define yung principal root, whether it is rational or irrational. Then let's proceed to the perfect squares. We can also use the concept of perfect squares to separate rational from irrational principal roots. Basta take note of the perfect squares. These are the perfect squares. The product of a number multiplied to itself is called a perfect square number, I should say. So we have 1 times 1, 1, 2 times 2, 4, 3 times 3, 9, then 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, 196, and 225. So we can extend that as much as we want, but let's just end there. Kung gusto nyo pang dugtungan ng 100 times 100, 101 times 100, okay lang. Basta, ang importante, kabisado mo. Kabisado mo na, sis. Okay, so let's have examples. When 2 times 2 equals 4, then the square root of 4 is 2. Now, since we have extracted a rational number which is 2, therefore we can say that the principal root of square root of 4 is rational, which is 2. Also, when you have 3 times 3 equals 9, then the square root of 9 equals 3. Therefore, the principal root of the square root of 9 is a rational number. When you also have a fraction like 16 over 25 or 4 times 4, 4 fifths times 4 fifths, that's equal to 16 over 25, then the square root of 16 over 25 is 4 fifths, and 4 fifths is a rational number. Okay. On the other hand, when a number is not a perfect square, then its principal root is irrational. For example, square root of 2. Can you think of any number that when multiplied by itself will give an answer of 2? Diba wala? So we can say that 2 is not a perfect square, therefore the principal root of square root of 2 is irrational number. Same as square root of 15, wala siyang, 15 is not a perfect square, therefore the square root of 15 is irrational number. Same as row with the square root of 3 over 10. 3 over 10 is not a perfect square, therefore the principal root of the square root of 3 over 10 is irrational number. Okay, so let's try this. Using a scientific calculator, input the following and get the equivalent value. Okay, so let's have square root of 49. The answer is 7. And we know that 7 is a rational number. Let's try square root of 3. By computing that in your calculator, square root of 3 is equal to 1.7320508 blah blah blah. And that is irrational number. And the square root of 144, and that's 12. And we know that 12 is a rational number. Next example is when you have the square root of 25 over 64. That's equal to, wait lang. Square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 64 is 8. Therefore, the principal root is 5 over 8. And 5 over 8 therefore is a rational number. Also, let's have the next lesson, which is on determining between what two consecutive integers the square root of a number lie. Medyo madali lang ito. Basta alam mo itong perfect square integers. So let's have 1 squared or 1 times 1. That's equal to 1. Then you have 2 squared, which is equal to 2 times 2. Your answer is 4. 3 squared, 9. 4 squared, 16. 5 squared, that's 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 8 squared or 8 times 8, that's 64. 9 squared or 9 times 9 is 81. 10 squared or 10 times 10 is 100. 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169, 14 squared is 196, and 15 squared or 15 times 15 is 225. Let's try to remember the perfect square from 1 to 225 lang muna. Pero kung gusto nyo yung mas marami, okay lang. Let's have examples. The principal roots of a radical below, the principal roots of the radical below are between two integers. Find the two closest integer. Ito yung mga integer, yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, hanggang 15. Dito yung 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 12, blah, blah, hanggang 225. These are perfect squares. Now, let's have examples. Kasanorde, tima. Square root of 6. Take note of the radicand. The radicand is 6, yung nasa loob ng radical sign. 6 is between what squared numbers. Dito sa squared numbers mo tignan. Yung 6 matatagpuan mo between 4 and 9. Kasi 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. O yung 6 nasa gitna ng 4 at 9. Ganon. So, your square root of 6 is lesser than the square root of 4, greater than square root of 4, and the square root of 6 is lesser than square root of 9. So your square root of 6 now is greater than 2, which is square root of 4 is 2, and it is lesser than the square root of 9, which is 3. So square root of 6 is between 2 and 3. Let's have another example. What if it is a negative number? Basta dito sa side na ito, yung mas maliit, dito yung mas malaki. Diba? Between two numbers siya. Yung dalawang number may mas malaki, may mas maliit. Dito, mas maliit yung 4, kaya dito natin ilagay. Mas malaki yung 9, kaya dito natin ilagay. Ganon. So let's have, for example, what if it is a negative square root of 6? Since negative And we know that 6 is between 4 and 9. Then, negative 6 is greater than negative square root of 9. Yung 9 na yung nandito kasi negative na. Yung 4 naman dito kasi positive na. And we know that the square root of 6 is lesser or greater than negative 3 and lesser than negative 2. Negative 3 is lesser than negative 2. Basbasit ni negative 3. So, ito yung nagyanan na. Learn. Therefore, the principal roots of negative square root of 6 is between negative 3 and negative 2. Now, let's have another example. What if you have the square root of 50? From these squared numbers or perfect square numbers, 50 is between what numbers? 50 is between 49 and 64, correct? So we can write that as square root of 50 is greater than 49 but lesser than square root of 64. Therefore, the square root of 50 is greater than 7 but lesser than 8. Therefore, the principal roots of square root of 50 is between 7 and 8. If we have a negative number again, negative 50, and we know that 50 is between 49 and 64, yung 64 dito na kasi negative. Ganon, negative square root of 64. At dito na rin yung 49 or negative square root of 49. Therefore, negative square root of 50 is greater than negative 8 but lesser than negative 7. And the principal roots of negative square root of 50 is between negative 8 and negative 7. Gets? Okay. So let's proceed again to another lesson which is on the estimating the square root of a whole number to the nearest hundredths. Ito medyo makatikaw or nakakahilo pero panindigan na natin kasi kailangan nating alamin kung paano ito. Pero pag nahihirapan na talaga kayo, wait lang. Tignan muna natin kung mahihirapan talaga kayo o madadalian, no? Okay, so estimate each square root to the nearest hundredths. Okay, example is square root of 7. We know that square root of 7 is between square root of 4 and square root of 9. Now, we have square root of 7 is between 2 and 3. Take note, between 2 and 3 and find those numbers that are between 2 and 3. Ana, dagitay numbers nga dagiti nga ni 2 and 3. We have 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, then 3. But take note, 7 is closer to 9. Therefore, the square root of 7 is closer to 3. Ganon. So, yung mga mas malapit kay 3, yung mga 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, ganon, 2.8, 2.9. Tignan natin ngayon si step 2. Make an educated guess to 1 decimal place and try it. Tignan natin yung 2.5 or 2.6, 2.7 squared, ganon. Since we know that the square root of 7 is closer to 3 than 2, we then square numbers closer to 3 with 1 decimal place. Ito yung sinasabi ko. 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8. Pag in-square mo siya, you can find the answers in here. But since the square root of 7 lies between 2.6 and 2.7 because yung 7 ay nasa gitna ng dalawang number na ito. So again, what are the numbers that are between 2.6 and 2.7? Kasi hundreds yung sinasabi niya and nasa tenths pa lang tayo. So we have 2.61, 2.62, 2.63, 2.64, 2.65, 2.66, 2.67, 2.68, 2.69, and 2.70. at 2.7. Ganon. Okay, so decide which is closer. O, tignan na natin. Saan na dyan ang mas malapit sa 7? Oh, yan, di ba? Therefore, notice that 7 is closer to 7.0225 compared to 6.9696. Then, we have to conclude that 7.00225 is the square of 2.65. So, estimating square of 7 is equal to or equivalent to 2.65. Okay, so this now, square root of 7 is equivalent to 2.65. Ala, po nagpangit na surat ko. May latan, masagkin na amatan tayo. Aya, ijeti na ngala. Learn. Okay, so let's have another example. What if you have square root of 44? We know that the square root of 44 is between 36 and 49. Therefore, the square root of 44 is between 6 and 7, but it is closer to 49 or 7, no? Square root of 44 is closer to 7. So, try to find the numbers between 6 and 7. You have 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.5, 6.92, 7. Find the uneducated guess to a decimal place and try it. Okay, so these are the two numbers that are closer to square root of 44. Ito yung mga malapit sa 44. Now, ano ba dito sa dalawang ito ang mas malapit sa 44? Okay, so decide which is closer. Okay, so pag nag-square na tayo ng mga numbers na malapit sa ganyang number, then, yung 44.0896 ang pinakamalapit na sagot. Therefore, the square root of 44 is equivalent to 6.63. Dito ko na kinuha. Dito. Pag hindi nyo pa na-gets, mag-calculator ka na lang, sis. Huwag na nating pahirapan yung mga sarili natin. New normal na ngayon. Digital na lahat. So, you can use your calculator. And then the last lesson is on plotting irrational numbers on a number line. Madali lang ito. Tansyahin mo lang kung alin dyan ang mas malapit or alin sa dalawang numero ang mas malapit. Ganun. So, let's have examples. Plot me. Plot the points on a number line. Number 1. Point A is square root of 18. We know that the square root of 18 is between the square root of 16 and square root of 25, or the square root of 18 is between 4 and 5. At alam natin na yung 18 ay mas malapit sa 16 kaysa sa 25. So, yung square root of 18 ay mas malapit sa 4 kaysa sa 5. So, itansya natin, yan yung sagot. So, let's have another example which is on point B, which is the square root of 73. And we know that the square root of 73 is between square root of 64 and square root of 81, or between 8 and 9. And we know that 73 is closer to 81. And in our number line, it is closer to 9. So, yung plot niya ay dito. Medyo nasa gitna siya, pero mas malapit sa 9 ng konti. Ganon. Okay, so if you have point C, which is square root of 30, and we know that square root of 30 is between square root of 25 and 36, or between 5 and 6, and it is closer to 25, therefore it's closer to 5. So, yung plot niya ay dito. Medyo tansyahin nyo lang yung sagot. Ganon. And then square root of 4, which is on point D, is square root of 52. Square root of 52 is between square root of 49 and square root of 64. And we know that square root of 52 is between 7 and 8. And 52 is closer to 49, therefore it is closer to 7. Kaya yung plot niya, ganyan. And then the last example, which is on point E, square root of 7. And we know that the square root of 7 is between square root of 4 and square root of 9. Or square root of 7 is between 2 and 3. And we know that 7 is closer to 9 or 3. Closer to 9 and square root of 9 is 3, so it is closer to 3. Yung square root of 7 is closer to 3, so your plot is like that. Nasa gitna siya ng 2 at 3, pero mas malapit siya sa 3. Nagets yun na? Okay. It's your turn. Open your modules and do the activities assigned to you by your teacher. Thank you for watching and God bless you all.
So that ends our lesson for today and I hope you learned something. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe and click the notification bell below for more updates and more videos. This is your teacher Aubrey signing off. See you again in the next video. Bye-bye!